Good evening and welcome to Special Assignment. I'm Ashraf Garda. Tonight we expose the alleged unethical business dealings of one of South Africa's leading real estate agents, Pam Golding. The estate agency allegedly colluded with property developer Bram Brewer in the illegal sales of land worth millions of rands in neighbouring Mozambique. The sales were made to unsuspecting South African investors who lost everything which they brought into the deal. Specialist producer Frank Ferro was sent to Mozambique on special assignment.
In 2005, Ivan and Audrey van Wyk sold all they had in Johannesburg to retire in Mozambique. The couple chose the unspoiled beauty of Bilan in the Gaza province, but they barely had enough time to settle when the nightmare began.
We were living like kings there. We were living in a life of absolute bliss.
The property was marketed and sold by renowned South African real estate company Pam Golding. This, they thought, made it a legitimate deal.
Pam Golding, they operate just as agents, but what they're selling is what is illegal in most of the cases.
This is Bram Brewer, a 70-year-old property developer. He is the man at the center of the scandal. Brewer acquired a land concession to build a resort, but when he couldn't raise the money, he divided the land into plots. Pam Golding then came on board, marketing and selling the dodgy deal to unsuspecting South African investors. This is the busy national road into northern Mozambique. From this intersection, it's about 30 kilometers to the coastal town of Bilan. This is a preferred destination for many holiday makers. It was here in this tropical paradise that the Van Wyks chose to retire.
We made our plans to go and retire in Bilan. The second holiday there, we stayed in one of the cottages in town, and we saw this complex that was being built there when we walked along the beach, and it was Golding Estate Agents, and we looked into that and we spoke to a youngster on the beach who was the builder. His name was Grant, and he kindly showed us around one of the houses there, and we fell in love with his timber homes, and we decided this is where we're going to do it.
But before any building could begin, the developer insisted they first buy the land.
Just a stand, then later on, when we had got more money, because Ivan had to sell a house, we had enough money to pay the house. So we paid him 350,000 for the stand. We paid him 17,000 for the transfer fees, and then the house was 560,000.
All land in Mozambique belongs to the state. It cannot be sold or rented. The lease or duat title is the permission to use the land for 50 years, which is renewable. We spoke to the South African Chamber of Commerce about the controversies relating to the country's land law.
I think traditionally South Africans, through a misunderstanding of the land legislation, historically went in and negotiated deals across the table with locals paying their money, and actually never legally got the concession, or the duat as we called it, in their name. And then when it came to a point of them being questioned on the legality of their ownership, they couldn't prove. And actually they invested some money in the property and building lodges and things, and some of these lodges were taken back because they didn't own the land.
This is where the Van Wyks went terribly wrong. They paid all their monies into Bram Brewer's lawyer's trust accounts, so when it came to registering their property, they had no proof of payment in Mozambique. It was a 6-year ordeal that saw them being shunted from pillar to post.
We realized right in the beginning, this is why we tried and went through all these hundreds of government departments from Shai to Mozambique. We even had some of our neighbors giving us petrol money to try and get our properties registered. We even tried to just get our house registered in the end from the governor. And we've done thousands upon thousands of kilometers. We even went to Maputo at times to be told by certain people that, sorry, we can't help you. And you've only driven 400 Ks now. why didn't he just tell us on the phone? But they don't. You see, this is how they deal. You must come and see me. So they're important.
The director of tourism in Mozambique's Gaza province, Rock Silva, says when the investors became uneasy, they realized that Bram Bruer had sold land at La Perla.
Olha, o caso da Pérola não resultou de uma investigação nossa. O caso veio ter, porque na verdade as pessoas depois de fechar o negócio, quando começaram a sentir alguma instabilidade do negócio, criaram condições que fizeram com que o governo pudesse se aperceber.
Meanwhile, the South African Mozambique Chamber of Commerce says investment monies in Mozambique have to be transferred by the Reserve Bank in Pretoria.
You need to follow the right procedures. Your cash must be transferred into the country legitimately, not via suitcases like traditionally had happened, so that you get proof of your investment.
The investors of La Perla had no proof of their investment. The deal was between them and Bruer. So late last year, the Mozambican government shut down the complex, giving them just enough time to remove their belongings.
It's destroyed us. You know, we were living like kings there. We were living in a life of absolute bliss. I mean, I don't think 1 in a million people lived like we lived in this beautiful country. White beaches. I know that place for 50 years. I walked up and down there when I was a kid. And I wanted to live in Mozambique, not because I dislike my country. I love South Africa, but it's a different quality of life. It's a safe haven for everybody.
Sadly, all the Van Wyks have left now are memories of their home in Mozambique. The couple says they now struggle to make ends meet and have become dependent on their children to survive.
We managed quite happily there on our pensions and what we had, and we saved a little bit so we could come through to South Africa to see our parents and our families. And now we battle. It's a battle on our pensions because we have to pay 4,000 rand a month rent here. So where do you find all this? If it wasn't for our kids helping us, I don't think we would have survived. We would not have survived this. Our move cost us 20,000 rand. Where do you find this? I had to sell my boat there. I sold my quad bike. We've sold our souls to get back here. It's not an easy life.
In a moment, we take you inside the doomed complex, 6 months after it was shut down.
We approached by boat. This is the multi-million rand La Perla complex in Bilan, Mozambique. It's situated on a hill overlooking the Wemji Lagoon, which flows into the Indian Ocean. Here in these waters, young men learn to fish at an early age. It's a means of survival for most families in this region. Sadly, this tranquil setting is about to be spoilt by what we are about to see inside the complex. The guard on duty is João Lombella. He says his job is to safeguard the place and to ensure it's not vandalized any further.
Nós estamos aqui na La Perla porque essas estâncias turísticas foram deixadas com os donos. Não sabemos porquê. Isso está com o Ministério de Turismo. Nós só estamos aqui só para garantir a tranquilidade pública, porque já havia vandalização das casas.
Lombella takes us on a tour of this opulent complex that has now become a shadow of its former self. The only sign of movement here is the wind blowing through the emptiness. The residents left in haste. All that's left are empty houses that are deteriorating fast.
Conforme pode ver, o que está dentro das casas, as casas estão devidamente incompletas daquilo que era o composicionamento das casas. Então, muita coisa foi tirada lá dentro, mas não sei de que caminho que foram as coisas, não sei dizer. Só estou aqui no seguramento só para controlar o movimento da entrada e saída, só mais nada.
The developer of La Perla had 6 years to get his house in order, but when he failed, government stepped in, seizing the property. Investors were caught in the middle, losing everything.
Unfortunately, the land was the development was taken back by the Mozambique government after a lengthy legal process. There is appeal still taking place now, but unfortunately, there's I think about 25 South African investors that have lost, I think, 25 million rand on that project, because they were actually, to a certain amount, defrauded by that developer.
I approached the governor of the Gaza province to ask if there was any way the investors could get their properties back. He says this will all depend on the outcome of a recent court appeal.
When the cases are in the Supreme Court, we can't touch it. We just wait for the judgment of the court. Therefore, all of us, government and the investor, we are waiting for that. Now, if it did be in the court, then decision was within us. We can sit down with the Ministry of Tourism and the investor to decide what to do. And the government can give the orientations, can give the measures which can be taken so that the investors, if they like, can follow. Otherwise, the government know what to do with that area.
Meanwhile, the Business Council in the Gaza province says it's been inundated with calls from concerned South Africans. These emails are from investors who suspect they might have bought into a fraudulent deal similar to La Perla. Rogério Gomes says about 50% of properties owned by foreigners in Mozambique had contravened the land law.
The developer is the guy that come and he register a company in Mozambique, and is the one who apply for the land in Mozambique. Is the one that is recognized by the government as a private entity and a legal entity. The investor is someone that buys into that properties that is not recognized by Mozambican government.
South Africans have been coming to Mozambique for decades. Quad biking is the ideal mode of transport to enjoy the vastness of this sunny paradise. The country has an unspoiled coastline of almost 2,500 kilometers, where many have settled.
Due to the fact that land has become so expensive in South Africa, especially coastal land, Mozambique has been a prime target for South Africans to find a coastal area where they could either develop a tourism venture or a holiday home, invest in that. It's a lot more, in the sense of cheaper than trying to buy on the Cape Coast or Durban North Coast.
But the recent turn of events appears to have had a negative impact on investor confidence in the country.
Developers are struggling to sell their properties in Mozambique, try to convince South Africans to that their project or investment is legitimate. And we, as the Chamber, have always said to investors, please go through some due diligence process to check that your investment in any tourism deal, that the actual project is still legitimate within the Mozambique law.
Meanwhile, the Director of Tourism in the Gaza province says South Africans are welcome, but warned that those who want to engage in illegal business must rather look elsewhere.
Houve uma tendência de dramatizar aquilo que foram medidas legais que o governo da província de Gaza tomou, mas felizmente os verdadeiros investidores sul-africanos não se sentiram distraídos e continuaram a acreditar. Agora, há aqueles que são indivíduos que vêm com a capa de investidores, mas que vêm aqui para vir realizar negócios sujos. Esses sim, e são esses que fizeram muito barulho na África do Sul.
It appears people are becoming more aware of the consequences if they happen to contravene the land law.
And I think a lot of people burnt their fingers on land deals that way, and people have started going through a more legal process using lawyers to make sure that their land purchase or their land concession is properly formulated or processed.
Coming up next, we confront Pam Golding on the controversial land sales in Mozambique.
Here at the Pam Golding offices in Maputo, business is booming. I have a confirmed interview with the director, Adrian Frey. I want to ask him about the legalities of buying property in Mozambique and also to get his response on Pam Golding's illegal land sales. But minutes after arriving, I'm told he's cancelled the interview. After protesting, I'm told to speak to a Pam Golding estate agent.
My name is Haruni Joseph, and I represent Pam Golding Properties. I'm an agent. I work mainly on the commercial side.
Okay, we were hoping to speak to Mr. Frey, the director. What happened?
Mr. Frey couldn't make it. His other commitments, but I think he said that I would take care of it, and I think I'll be able to help you.
Okay, so you speaking on Mr. Frey on behalf of Pam Golding, you speak?
Yes, on behalf of Mr. Frey and Pam Golding Properties.
Okay, so he gave you the authorization to talk?
Adrian Frey is the former boss of Moz Legal. The company offered legal advice to the investors of La Perla. But despite all the advice, there was no recourse because, after all, the sale of land is illegal in Mozambique. So in the end, the investors still ended up losing everything. After the La Perla debacle, Adrian Frey dissolved Moz Legal, and he is now the director of Pam Golding operations in Maputo.
Just after we moved in, we went to Bram and said we wanted to register the house. And when we went to see his lawyers in Maputo to register the house, which is Moz Legal, Adrian Frey at that time, we found out there was no concession, there was no dua. It was revoked. It was revoked that December of 2005.
Although the land concession was revoked as far back as 2005, Brouwer failed to inform the investors, this while Pam Golding still continued to market and sell land at La Perla. Despite numerous attempts to get a response from Brouwer, we were unable to get a hold of him.
Hi ma'am, is that Mr. Brouwer's house, Mr. Bram Brouwer?
Yeah, but he's not here, he's going out.
Meanwhile, Pam Golding in South Africa conceded in an email to selling property at La Perla. But they repeatedly declined our request for an on-camera interview to clarify their position on the land sales. The company says it's not their policy to talk to the media. However, in Maputo, a Pam Golding estate agent was interviewed by Special Assignment. This must then surely be a contradiction of company policy.
There appears to be a lot of land that's been taken and people have lost everything, you know. For instance, the Pam Golding scam up in La Perla.
Okay, I wouldn't call it a Pam Golding scam because, as I say, that Pam Golding was involved in selling the property, which is its duty. And then the rest, what's happened, wasn't Pam Golding's doing.
To a certain extent, Pam Golding influenced the buy. They advised the people, they were there to advise the people. But there was no advice forthcoming, you know. Eventually they lost everything.
I wouldn't know that, but I think the best thing would be to contact Pam Golding South Africa, and then they can help you on that.
Okay, that's all the properties.
Pam Golding has a huge property portfolio which can be viewed on the internet. The properties advertised here are out of reach of most people's pockets. The Business Council in the Gaza province says in some instances Pam Golding contravenes the land law.
They got good marketing. Most of the things is marketed in South Africa. When the people get to the website of that place that they for sale, and the people call Pam Golding. Pam Golding do the transaction, show them the place that exists on a certain point.
Okay.
The money is being put in South Africa through the bank in South Africa. That's why that business is not valid in Mozambique.
Meanwhile, the Hawks have begun an investigation into the fraudulent business practices of Bram Brouwer and a number of his associates.
We are investigating fraud, and our suspicions is that it was a scam because in Mozambique you're not allowed to sell land to people. So if you ask people to pay for land when effectively you cannot sell land, that is effectively a scam and it is a fraud. We are working on suspicions that the people that are implicated enriched themselves and that they falsified what their intentions were for the people that were made to pay money. So yes, it is a scam. And so the fact that the fraud was committed in South Africa, in that the money was deposited in a trust account in South Africa, it gives us the power to investigate the people that are involved. And the fact that these people live in South Africa, it also gives us the powers to investigate them.
The Hawks have also established that Pam Golding influenced investors to buy property at La Perla through their extensive marketing and sales campaign.
Mr. Brewer, what he did was approach people through an agent, and that the agent put adverts in the internet and in golf magazines saying that there was land and timeshares for sale in Mozambique. And as a result of that, there were very many people who invested. And when these people started to ask about what they had paid for, it turns out that the offices were now moved and that the attorney and Mr. Brewer hightailed and started to run away.
That agent is Pam Golding. How is it possible for an experienced property mogul like Pam Golding to make property deals without due diligence on the legal requirements in Mozambique?
Golding apparently was right at the beginning involved in this complex to sell the land. But there was then a problem with the advert to say land for sale in Mozambique, which Bram didn't like and which the government officials told him not to use, because he knew that was illegal, because you cannot buy land in Mozambique.
Meanwhile, the governor of the Gaza province says the Van Wyks and the other investors of La Perla are considered innocent.
We look them as innocent somehow, because maybe they didn't know. They thought that the invitation which they received to buy the land and build the house was right. Who made the mistake is the owner of that resort. Therefore, the punishment, if so, is to the owner of the La Perla, and not the people who are there. We don't know. Government with them, no link at all.
While the legal battles are raging on, the clock is ticking for the Van Wyks. Having saved their life's earnings for a taste of paradise, it seems the remainder of their lives will be hell on earth. And it could be a while yet before they get their property back, if at all.
I'm sure that you have strong views on this issue, and you can tweet your comments by using the hashtag Special Assignment. You can also Facebook or email us. Well, that's it from me. Join us again next week when we point out the issues that matter.